To start the Dhamma talk, everyone may consult with 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse Bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Janato aham bhikkhave asvanam khayam vadami no ajanato no apassato kincha bhikkhave janato kincha passato manasi ආසවානං khayao hoti yonisocha manasikaro ayonisocha manasikaro ti. Dear Dhamma friends, as you all know, that today is the second talk in the second day, and for this series of Dhamma talk, we took the Sabbasawa Sutta as the main theme. That you find that sutta in the Tipitaka, in the Sutta Pitaka, specifically in the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length sayings. And as the name of the sutta suggests, it is talking about asava or taints or influxes in our mind. And the Buddha assuring that he is going to teach us and instruct us how to restrain this kind of asava in totality. O monks, I shall teach you a discourse on the restraint of all the taints. That is the introductory verse, introductory term the Buddha interprets. And introducing so, he says that he whoever wishes to restrain these taints or influxes of the mind, he must understand only that kind of restrainment or discipline can happen for the person who knows and person who sees the taints. And categorically Buddha says, not for people, those who do not know and do not see. So therefore, our task become double-fold. First thing is, we must know, we must see, as and when these taints are, as and when these influxes are infiltrating into our stream of consciousness. Intrude into our stream of consciousness. Noting and knowing is the first thing. The second thing is, we must understand there are disadvantages. There are flaws, how much it is damaging us in short term as well as in long term. So, understanding first, and the second thing is how to get rid of it. So, people, those who are taking retreats and taking the restrainment regarding the morality, concentration and the wisdom, is basically appreciating this kind of discipline of traits, the influxes, taints. So the discourse is taking the responsibility about teaching about how to pick them, how to isolate them, how to delimit them, how to make out them. Then only our restrainment will be very effective. That is why the Buddha says this restrainment is possible only for those who knows, only for those who sees this kind of taints and the influxes. And the Buddha asked categorically, what does it mean by knowing and seeing of the taints? Knowing and seeing of the influxes. Then he introduced two tools Yonisocha manasikaro, ayonisocha manasikaro. These are two crucial tools or themes. The meditators, specifically those who are serious in enlightenment in this very life, should have acquaintance, should understand. So today I thought of dealing this two terms, Yonisocha manasikaro, ayonisocha manasikaro. Here the manasikara is the term. Yoniso and ayoniso are two adverbs giving coloration to the original term, manasikara. Manasikara as such is a mental factor. It's always mind is associating this kind of mental factors as if a body of water, a lake or a pond or sea, always associating frills and waves and kind of thing. So that indicates this is a water body because we see waves, we see frills on it. Likewise, we know we are having a mind because we have mental factors. Mental factors are the indicators or manifestations of the mind. So theoretically, in a Theravada tradition, there is 52 mental factors. Whatever may be the number, mental factors are the thing, indicate that we have a mind. So manasikara is yet another mental factor. Manasikara is what adverting our mind to a particular object whenever it is given with a series of objects. Whenever we are given with a variety of entertainment, the mind reach one of them because the manasikara leads. Manasikara gives the guidance, and therefore the manasikara is translated as the adverting of the mind. For example, when we are taking a part in the buffet diet, and we are entitled to take whatever we wish. But when a group reach the buffet table, each and everyone select different items according to their likings and disliking, according to their personality traits. They select. That selection and that decision is done by the manasikara. So the world is full of objects. And we have many access doors. Something like the eye, that has the access for visual objects. And then the ear is open for sound waves. And the nose for the smells. And the tongue for the tastes, together with taste buds. And the whole body, specifically the epidermis, for the tactile sensations. And the mind is for all the phenomena. So at a given time, mind has to decide whether to use the eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or the mind. Because one donkey at a time. Only one faculty can work. So therefore manasikara is the one adverting or diverting our mind to either become a seer or hearer, or a person smell, or person taste, or touch, or think. It is so swift. In its natural course, in one thought moment we will be a seer, and if you are sharp enough, if you are mindful enough, if you are vigilant enough, if you are diligent enough, you will understand, or you have to understand, as far as you are a seer, you are deaf. You can't smell. You can't taste. You can't touch. You can't think. Because seeing operation dominates all the other operations. The eye dominates all the other faculties as far as the manasikara connects mind and the eye, so that all the other faculties has to be shut down for that particular given thought moment. And next moment, you will be a hearer instead. At that time, eye, the nose, the tongue, the body, the thinking, everything has to be cut off. Because in the second thought moment, the ear is dominating, so you will become a hearer. So unless otherwise you are sharply mindful, unless otherwise you are sharply vigilant, you can't make it out. You can't discriminate it out, because the thought moment is a very slight, very minimum amount of time. So you must know the art of thin slicing of the time. That is what we are activating now. In common English we increase the vigilance, we increase the diligence, we make our mind so agile and ready to see thought moment by thought moment. Then only you can cut into the thinmost slice of the time, and then you can see how swiftly the manasikara is leading the mind to the eye, to the ear, to the nose, to the tongue and the body. Okay. Accepted, or assuming that you all have understood this, then we will take one faculty, such as the eye. When you open the eye and become the seer, you have all the variety of colors and all the shapes. So out of all the range of colors and all the shapes, what color that particular thought moment is selecting, what shape it is selecting, is completely accidental. It's completely without any agenda. So, even within the faculty of eye, whenever you are given with varieties of colors and shades and shapes, our selection is completely solely upon the manasikara, or the adverting of the mind, and then immediately we develop either a liking or disliking towards that particular selected color and the shape, which is we call visual object, visual impingement we call. So mind is come to in view with, it come with avenue with this particular shape and this particular color, and then whether you like it or not, immediately a kind of sizing of the object, color, the entertainment object, or in the sense liking and disliking arises. Then onward, you simply forget that you are a seer, or everything happening through the eye faculty. You will be taken for a ride through this liking and disliking, and there onward, you are completely bogged down in this particular object, and then asavas, that means taints and influxes, keep on oozing, coming, and ultimately you will be sometimes going into the transgressional kind of violational kind of defilements, and you rather become too much attracted to that particular object that you have seen, or you may be hating that particular object, and there onward you are completely off the ground, you are completely on your imagination rather than on the realistic life. So this is the way whenever the mind is hooked up with a particular object. So therefore early part of this process is pure. It is happening in a natural way. Soon untrained mind go off the ground, and ultimately you will succumb to the whatever the emotion come, whatever the defilement surrounded by, and you become just a subject to this process. So therefore, first of all, you have to understand each and every process of thinking or thought moments arising in the pure level and soon it become corrupted, soon it become beyond your control, as far as you are unmindful, as far as you are not vigilant, as far as you are not diligent. So can't help, because everyone is starting from that point. So the Buddha says, just observe it as it happens, and then you can see how pure at the beginning, and so quickly they become defiled and ultimately go beyond control. And as far as the ear, nose, tongue, the body and the mind is concerned, the eye is the most defiling faculty in a commoner, in sentient beings in a day-to-day life. Therefore, anything we love, we call it is just like our eye. Whenever we become blind, our life is gone. We are no more entertaining the life, because majority of our time we stimulate, we titillate, we amuse through seeing. And second is hearing, and then the smelling, and then the tasting. The last minimal amount of defilements coming through the body, or materialistic or corporeality of these five senses. So that is why the Buddha, for the beginner, for the amateur person, better to start at this body level. That is why the Kayanupassana, the contemplation on the body is prescribed as the first and foremost step. So even though examples are cited related with the eye, the practical starting point, the best is to start with the body. Yesterday in the talk, we took time to explain how a meditator should make use this adverting of the mind or directing of the mind towards a bodily object, neutral object, and train the mind so that you develop certain amount of mindfulness and the concentration. After gaining momentum, gaining acceleration of the mindfulness and the concentration, then you will become little protected. Then only you can go for the nose, the tongue, the body, ear and the eye, like very complicated faculties. So today also, we will take the body or Kayanupassana as the starting point, and when we sit comfortably and let the mind to be introvert, let the mind to be concerned, here now I am, even though it is habitually going for wandering and daydreaming, fantasizing, or habitually worried about the bodily pains, or habitually worried about the external sounds, we must facilitate the sitting posture so that we will get the least amount of wandering thoughts and fantasizing, daydreaming. Or we must not appreciate it. Or we must give a comfortable sitting posture so that there won't be much of a bodily pains or imbalance. And we must cut off as much as possible irritating sounds, so there are better chances for the mind to be introvert and be concerned about here, now I am sitting. Here, now I am. So this is the starting point. If that is possible, you have your full qualification to become a yogi, a meditator. So that is the starting point. So each and every day, each and every sitting, you must make sure you sit comfortably. This is the beginner's mind. You must always appreciate the beginner's mind, the good start. So supposing we get a comfortable, friendly sitting, and while closing the eyes mildly, we let the natural process to continue. That is we call just being, just sitting. You be with yourself. You are concentrated or contemplative upon your sitting posture. Then sometimes the breathing starts, because it is the minimum level of activities for the process called existence, living. So when the breathing happens, you can simply be aware of breath. So while you are observing, that your attention, you know where to focus, that is on the in-breath and out-breath. While observing the in-breath and out-breath, if you can pinpoint a place where it touches the most, that will be helpful for the one-pointedness to develop. Otherwise, the mind will be roaming around everywhere. That is not so conducive for the one-pointedness to happen, the concentration to happen. So therefore, if you feel the touch sensation at the end of the nostril, you just keep the attention at the end of the nostril, left side or right side, or top of your lip. If that is the case, we call this Anapanasati Bhavana, or mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath. Some people may feel the abdominal movements along with the movements of the diaphragm. That is we call rising and falling or Burmese meditation. That is also kind of under the nose experience. So when this primary object is being isolated and delimited and discreetly understood, you apply the mind again and again to this particular object. That very application is what we call manasikara, adverting of the mind to the particular object. So your manasikara must be a yoniso manasikara, or wise attention, wise consideration, wise reflection, wise preoccupation. Why it is called wise? Because the breath or rising and falling never gives rise for desire or for hatred. It's a neutral object. So it has no tendencies. So that is why at the beginning you focus the attention on a neutral object, either the in-breath and out-breath at the nostril or rising and falling of the abdomen. So when you are observing it, since it is not titillating, since it is not dramatic, it is not attractive. That you have to understand the meditation, we are selecting a neutral object, unless otherwise you apply again and again. You focus the manasikara or adverting of the mind again and again, naturally mind will reject it, because mind always chasing behind something dramatic, something desirable. Often it stumbles upon undesirable thing, but it is always chasing behind the pleasure, chasing behind the desirable. So therefore, whenever the neutral object becomes the primary object, the yogi, the practitioner, the meditator has to apply the mind again and again. So, manasikara, the adverting of the mind, one has to understand in order to keep the mind continuously with this primary object or neutral object, and otherwise mind wander off. And then otherwise it is worrying about the sounds or complain about the bodily pains. So therefore knowingly you have to again and again apply the mind, so that mind will go into this particular object. Going into this particular object we call manasikara. So therefore, in order to keep the track with manasikara, yet another mental factor to be introduced, that is called vitakka, the application of the mind. If your application is correct, well understood, and then mind naturally goes to that particular object. So therefore, vitakka is the what we call the applying of the mind, or raising the mind to that particular object. So this is naturally going, untrained mind is naturally going with the desire, a pleasure-seeking game. But in the meditation what we do is, we apply knowingly that object is neutral, it is not driven by desire or hatred, so you apply again and if that is the case, the manasikara, the association, and direction or adverting of the mind will happen with the primary object. This is the difference between the day-to-day life or uncontemplative life and the contemplative life. Usually, when discussions are going on, if you ask people, Buddhists, whether you all are meditating, majority will say not. Because they say they have no time. They have a lot of obligations and duties and responsibilities. So therefore, they don't have time for meditation. And if you ask, are you all doing anapana? Still they get confused. Anapana means that breathing in and out. Anapanasati means mindfully breathing in and out. Whether you mindful or not, breathing takes place. So therefore, whether you are a meditator or not, your breathing takes place. Only thing is you do not know. You are not aware of it. So meditation means you are adverting the mind to that particular thing usually you are not aware of. That awareness, that mindfulness brings so much of benefits. But the thing is, as I mentioned earlier, naturally mind is not happy with this kind of a natural object, the neutral object. So therefore, mind pulls you back, pulls you out of the primary object and go for desire. So therefore, again and again, you have to apply the mind to the primary object, knowingly, mind always expecting something dramatic, something desirable. So meditation or mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath means your attention, your application of mind goes to the particular natural object without or not allowing the natural course of the mind, that is usually going for the desirable thing. So, in order to give this sharpness or shortest cut to the mindfulness, what the meditative techniques or teachers ask is, sit comfortably and let the mind to see the breathing. It's a natural process as such, and so that you have to fix all the other variables such as thinking and the bodily pains and the external sounds. So if the mind falls upon this in-breath and out-breath, it's a very good start. And then you try to see what is the most prominent point. The air column is touching, air column is rubbing, and suppose that you select the nostril, end of the left nostril or end of the right nostril as the particular point. Then you apply again and again. When the in-breath happens, you try to feel it, you try to experience it as the most important job, as the most important responsibility of you, so that mind stream of consciousness is protected. It is not associating any desire, not associating any hatred, not associating any bewilderment, not associating any sloth and torpor. When the in-breath happens, you know you are in the in-breath. When the out-breath happens, you know you are in the out-breath. So, to sharp it as a technique, when the in-breath happens, either you can mentally note in-breath, or when the out-breath happens, you can note it as out-breath, out-breath. For those who are taking the rising and falling of the abdomen, they will note as the rising happens, rising, rising, and the falling happens, the falling, falling. That is because in order to advert the mind, to make it assured, make it practical, you have to ask the mind, what is the difference between the in-breath experience and the out-breath experience? That is what we call discrimination. Discriminative knowledge, when the in-breath happens, you must know this is not out-breath, this is not a thought, this is not a sound, this is not a bodily pain, this is in-breath. So you must know the natural characteristics of the in-breath. Immediately it gives rise to the out-breath, then you note it as out-breath. So you know you are in the out-breath, not in-breath. It is not a sound, not a thought, not a pain. So likewise, is the adverting of the mind. The manasikara is correct, and you have applied the mind in the correct way. Soon you will come to know the natural, intrinsic characteristics of the in-breath versus the out-breath. This is the starting point to see that mind is penetrating into the object, plunging into the object of meditation. So if you are assured with this kind of momentum, it gathers the power. It gathers the acceleration. As and when the in-breath happens, your mind is ready and prepared to see its natural characteristics. As and when the out-breath happens, the mind is prepared to see its natural characteristics. So when the discrimination happens, whenever the mind wandered off, immediately you come to know this is not in-breath or out-breath. Instead you can feel the mind is thinking, wandering, daydreaming. Because you can't feel in-breath and out-breath. So you are much discriminate to see whether you are in the correct track or not. Even then, even if you understand the function of manasikara, the adverting of mind, and the supporting factor of application thought, applying thoughts, still the mind can go wander off along the thinking, along the pains, along the sounds. So do not reactive, do not get worked up with. You have to understand the mind is, untrained mind is like a monkey, a mad monkey. It's jumping from one branch to the other without any pre-planning. So that was the case before we introducing this meditation into our life. So therefore we can't immediately stop all these characteristics. So you have to be patient. Whenever the mind is not wandering off, whenever the mind is not experiencing kind of unbearable pains, whenever the mind is not experiencing externally irritating sounds, you maximize the time to see the primary object, still in the discrete way, in-breath versus out-breath. Whenever it is wandered off, you know my mind is wandering off frequently to the thought in some characters. For some people it's external sound, for some people it is bodily pains. So more and more you practice keeping the primary object face to face with, then either you are with the primary object or you are recognizing the most frequent visitor, frequent great crasher into your particular character. Both of them are informative. As far as the mind is with the primary object, you can see the in-breath versus out-breath. Or if you are contemplating on the rising and falling, you will understand the rising and falling. Otherwise, with frequent straying or going away of the mind, you understand what is the basic factor distracting you. So this is the way you understand the who am I, your personality trait, your likings and disliking. So if you are going to hate, if you are going to get rid of and if you are trying your best to get rid of thinking, pains and sounds, you will develop invariably some kind of a hatred towards this kind of object. Instead, you have to be choicelessly be aware of these kind of distractions, and whenever time permits, you have to come back to the primary object and apply the mind to this primary object, specifically in-breath versus out-breath. The moment you understand the discrete knowledge, characteristics of the in-breath versus out-breath, it is becoming a technical job. It becomes a scientific thing. It is a tool you have to employ to see the in-breath versus out-breath. Therefore, whenever you happen to have interviews, what you have to report to the teacher is, what is your primary object? He'll say, I am meditating on the in-breath and out-breath. So then you have to be specific when the in-breath happen, whether you noted it as in-breath or not, and if you are successfully noted, what are the characteristics of the in-breath. And when the out-breath happen, equally enthusiastically, have you noted it as out-breath? And if it is so, what are the characteristics of the out-breath? If it is not so, you have to equally report, I was delayed in noting, or I am noting before the object arising, or I am synchronizing and concurrent with the as and when the object arises. These all are very quite informative for the teacher to understand your stream of consciousness. So therefore, in interviews, you must report for each object, the way you noted, and what did you comes to know. If you are sharp up to that point, easily you can say 50% of your meditation is complete. That is, your communication lines are straightened. One thing is, while meditating you are sharp, you know what you are doing. The second thing is, when you are relating it to the teacher, in the interviews, you are sharp. That sharpness make wonders. The moment you report in the proper way, next day, when you go and sit with this hilarious feeling, your mind start right from the place you stopped last time. And then the gathering of the momentum happens, specifically in a retreat like this. So therefore, as far as the yoniso manasikara, the wise reflection is there, each and every breath, in-breath or out-breath, is a door, is a gateway towards the reality, towards the mindfulness, towards the concentration. And if the mind is with the ayoniso manasikara, unwise reflection, careless reflection, then it is whatever may be, in-breath or out-breath, or thinking, or hearing, or bodily pains, everything end up with either hate or with desire. So there, things are taking place, taking the upper hand. Ultimately, you lose the ground and you will be taken for a ride. So, each and every thought moment have a equal chances, so either for unwise attention or the wise attention. Careful attention or careless attention. So, the yoniso manasikara is in normal text translated as the wise attention or careful attention. Ayoniso manasikara is being translated as careless attention or unwise attention. You have to taken into grant that throughout the samsara, we were invariably in the unwise attention. The Buddha radically introducing this wise reflection, and therefore one of my teachers translated this term, yoniso manasikara, as radical reflection. It's something new for our life. It is so new. Our conventional mind, traditional mind which is running always in a rut, always reacting, always hesitating to employ this radical reaction, radical reflection. I don't know how far I am correct to say such a statement like, the more you get older, more you are in a rut. You have your liking and disliking, you have your traits, you never happy to change them. The radical reflection is a natural way of the young blood. But even if you are age old or old age, if you know, if you appreciate this, the young blood, the radical way, still you can be a successful meditator. Knowing the function of the defilements. He is always happy to take you for a ride, and ultimately you will be engulfed or inundated with asava, that influxes, taints. The radical reflection is to cut off that stream. It's cut off in a very minute way. Each and every object as and it arises, each and every thought moment as and when it arises, you try to be fully aware, fully mindful, not allowing the taints to come and take the upper hand. You be there, just like a footballer, be on the ball, as and when the object arises, you are vigilant and diligent and mindfully aware, not allowing the taints to take upper hand. So that is why in the sitting meditation, you have to exert so much of energy to keep the mind face to face with the arising object. As I mentioned earlier, mind, the untrained mind, always not happy with this kind of radical reflection. So therefore, it wandered off, it switched off from this meditative life and go for thinking and worrying about the thoughts and pain and all the kind of thing. So don't consider it is as your, how do you call this, your own defilements, your own sin, anything. This is the natural thing of the mind. So don't hesitate, don't get backward, always take the chance whenever it is possible to have this radical reflection, to be face to face with the arising object. In sitting meditation, if you take the person who is meditating on the Anapanasati, each and every in-breath and out-breath, you must be aware of, you must be prepared to see as it is happens. For example, continuously pain going to arise, bodily pains, then you know the prominence of this pain is much, much stronger than the neutral object of in-breath and out-breath. Under such circumstances, very difficult for you to keep the track with the primary object. Under such circumstances, you have to take the pain which came naturally as the object of meditation, so that because that there is no in-breath and out-breath prominent, so there you have to pull your attention from the end of the nostril and paste it where the pain is coming. For example, left knee or right ankle. So see it, paste it there and see the nature of the pain. Whether it is like a stabbing pain, burning, twisting, or needles like, or in one point, or it's an area, or it's moving, or it's stable. Likewise, just see when the pain comes, how it can be explained without the hatred. Usually pain comes, our natural tendency is to hate it, try to get rid of that. So therefore, the stream of consciousness will be infiltrated with the hate. So when the pain is being observed, you have to observe double-fold. One thing is the nature of the pain. The second thing is how the influxes, how the taints are coming to get rid of this pain, so that you get tensed, you get worked up. If that is the case, your mindfulness is weaker, so that you have to, so that you can't understand your own hatred. So if they are more than, or not like the contemplation of the body, whenever the pain arises, it is naturally associating the pleasure or pain. Pain means you hate it. When the pleasurable thing happens, you desire it. So therefore, the noting and the understanding must be double-fold, but in the bodily, natural primary object is concerned, there is no such a complication. So that is why you must try to develop mindfulness through the primary object as much as possible, so that yoniso manasikara, the wise reflection, radical reflection, will be easier under this simple situation, uncomplicated situation. Once the mind develops certain amount of mindfulness or diligence, then slowly, naturally, the bodily pains will give an opportunity for you to employ this mindfulness and see. Whenever the pain arises, it is always colored with desire and the hate or desire. And when the sound happens, often you hate it. When the wandering thought happens, you always get worked up with just to get it off. But in Yonaso Manasikara it says, whenever the hatred arises, recognize it as hatred, but don't let the hatred to take you for a ride. So therefore, whenever you go away from the primary object, you are faced with complicated thing. It demands high amount of mindfulness, high amount of concentration. So the beginner is always asked to keep the body comfortable as much as possible and develop the mindful to the maximum level with the help of the primary object. So when that happens, definitely after 20 to 35 minutes time, bodily pains are often disturbing, or sometimes the sounds are disturbing. So therefore, get disheartened, get flat battery, and often give up and get up and go. So that is why it has been always associated with the walking meditation, because walking meditation won't give any kind of bodily pains as such. And since you do meditation, do walking meditation with open eyes and in the outdoor, so they are often you have to put up with visual objects and sounds. So therefore, though the mindfulness, the degree of mindfulness is very low compared to the sitting meditation, it has to deal with the versatile situation. So they are, as and when the right leg is placing, you try to feel the touch sensation of the right leg. And whenever the left leg is placing, you try to feel the touch sensation of the left leg. And at the beginning you just compare how the right leg, how the left leg, and whether you start with the heel and spreading towards the toes, or you give the whole sole, or whether you are starting with the toes, or outside of the foot, or inside of the foot, whatever maybe you compare. With compared to the sitting meditation, this is, the starting point will be very slow, but once you season into this particular walking session, your mind will understand ways and means or tactics, how to keep this track with the left to the right, right to the left. And even then, when you go to the end of the walking path, when you are turning, your mindfulness will be again scattered off. Because when you are turning, the momentum breaks. So don't worry, don't get worried, because it is a kind of a training. And again, when you turn and start the journey to the other side, again slowly the mindful will gather the momentum. At the end, again it will be scattered. So likewise, it is giving a lot of challenges, and therefore the mindfulness you gain, the concentration you are gain in the walking meditation is very dramatic, very versatile. But whatever may be in the sitting meditation or walking meditation, if your wise reflection, wise attention, or careful attention indicate this is the left and this is the right, this is the in-breath and this is the out-breath, more and more associating the same object, this comparison will become multifaceted. That is to say, at the beginning in the sitting, you compare the in-breath versus out-breath. If the mind is sharp, if the mind is aligned with this discrimination, chronologically, when you keep on with the primary object, the in-breath and out-breath, slowly you will understand there is a comparison between in-breath to in-breath, out-breath to out-breath. In the Satipatthana Sutta or in the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha mentioned Soon you focus the attention to the breath. Sato asa sati, sato passa sati. Mindfully he in breath, mindful be out breath. That means he know this is in breath, this is out breath. When continue, Digam va asa santo, digam asa samiti pajanati. Digam va passa santo, digam passa samiti pajanati. He understand when the long in-breath happens, he understands this is long in-breath. Equally, when the long out-breath happens, he understands this is as the long out-breath, and everything will become conducive. When the mind become introvert, slowly the breathing will become lighter and lighter and shorter. That means in-breath to in-breath, the shortness sets in. Out-breath to out-breath, the shortness sets in. So that means not only the in-breath versus out-breath, in-breath versus in-breath also takes place. Out-breath versus out-breath also takes place. This is a very clear sign the mind is penetrating into the primary object. That means no much of distraction from the thoughts, no much of distraction from the sounds, no much of distraction from the bodily pains. The mind is go in. If you are not ready to pump enough energy, if your battery is flat by that time, often the monotony or the paleness, lack of interest, and everything going to creep in. Because you see the same object and mind become slimy, sloth and torpor can set in, and boredom and monotony, everything can come in. That is indicating more and more you penetrate into the object, it demands more and more energy. It needs more and more faith. Then only the sharpness of the mindfulness become obvious. Otherwise, when everything is conducive, mind is often with the in-breath and out-breath, then you feel slimy, you feel sloth and torpor, and ultimately you don't know whether you are fallen into sleep or mind is wandering off. Ultimately you will get jerks and get open into the primary object. This is in a way good sign, but if you are not tackling it in the proper way, ultimately it may lead to the sloth and torpor. So this is a point usually happening after 20 to 30 minutes time. So by that time your mental energy is low, and if you do not know, often you get trapped into that situation. That is the point the walking meditation come in, help take in this situation. Because in the walking meditation, you mobilize your energy, your battery becomes fully charged, and therefore you have a good storage of energy. So after the walking, if you go and sit, whenever this kind of mind is penetrating into the object, and this boredom comes, you have enough reservation of energy. If the noting is continuous, successfully, you can go deep into something like a tightrope walking. At the beginning, you feel somewhat steady. When you go to the middle of the rope, there's a lot of jerks, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of imbalance can happen. So there you must have enough confidence, otherwise you have to either fall down or come back. So in the meditation also, when advancing, it is like walking in a footbridge or acrobat with the tightrope walking. So many experienced yogis, those who have taken few retreats, would have gone to that situation, but if you go without prepared mind, without the already stored energy, this become more and more challenge. Under such circumstances, you will see the walking meditation gives a lot of creative kind of courage, energy, and you will be happy to take this kind of a dramatic events and to maintain still the yoniso manasikara, not to give into the ayoniso manasikara and come back or fall into trap with the entertaining doubts or sleepiness. You can go, you can advance through the tightrope walking. So that is the point where the yoniso manasikara become more and more sharp, mindfulness become more and more sharp, and even though the object and the meditation is more towards inside meditation, you develop kind of a concentration we call momentary concentration, which is more dramatic, which is demanding more energy, and you get more and more engaged, more and more penetrating into the object. And when that happens, if you sharp enough, not letting the mind to fall into sleep, or not letting the mind to entertain doubts, you are become more immediate with the object, more face-to-face with the object, more close with the object, so that object start to change its face value. Going to change from the conventional value to the absolute values. You can feel the very subtle starting of the in-breath and how it ceases to exist, and how the experience tapering off to the gap between in-breath and out-breath. Passing through the gap, how the in-breath starts, very subtle, and then coming to the middle with the good rubbing sensation, how it ceases to exist. Likewise, you are trying to see the beginning and the end of the object if your mind is well mobilized. If the mind is fully with mindfulness, and you can cut the time series into thin slices. Each and every object, you can see the unseen beginning and unseen end. They are very subtle. And at that time, if you are wandering way off with the thoughts and pain, you will never be successful in absorbing and understanding and digesting and tasting of the beginning of the object at the end of the object. So, understand the beginning, the middle and the end of the object is yet another way of defining mindful insight meditation. Insight meditation means you are ready to see the beginning, the middle and end of any object. You start, you experiment it with primary object. But if you are using the same technique to the sleepiness, to the sound, to the pain, you will understand when you are very nicely face to face with the primary object and you are observing the beginning, the middle and end, meanwhile you can understand lot of pains are there, even though it is bearable, in the background, not disturbing. While you are observing the primary object, you can see lot of sounds are there, it is not addressing to you. They are backgrounds, environmental sounds. And the most dramatic thing is, while you are observing and face to face with the primary object, you can see a lot of inner thoughts, background thoughts are at the periphery. They don't get a chance to step in. Because you are fully engaged, but you can't say there are no thoughts. There are, but meaningless. They are inert. They are background. So you feel hilarious because sounds are there, not addressing you. Pains are there, not unbearable. Thoughts are there, no content. They are inert, but still you can continue with the primary object. As if in a heavy rain, you can walk in the street, maybe you are covered with the raincoat, and therefore you can move. You can see others are stuck, but you can move. Likewise, the mindfulness gives the protection, the concentration gives the confidence, and the radical reflection become full-fledged. You can understand the distraction become distraction when the mindfulness is weak. Distractions become distraction when the concentration is no more. Distraction become distraction when the wise attention is not there. Radical reflection is not there. So that radical reflection you can't get by contemplation. You can't get by theory knowledge. You have to put forth the energy and go through the difficulties. Once you gain it, you know how to employ it. So this is how you knowing that unwise attention gives rise chances for the influxes. But the wise attention or radical reflection can control them, can monitor them, so that you can maintain the pure stream of consciousness. So your gain, your knowledge, your understanding, your taste on the primary object increases. Penetration to the primary object increases, so you are more protected, you are more concentrated, so that all the distractions become invalid. They become powerless because your concentration and the mindfulness increases. This is a very good sign that your yoniso manasikara, the radical reflection is working, and it happens only in one single dimension, that is to say, trial and error method. There is no secret formula. There is no magic power. There is no grace of the teacher. Nothing. That you have to apply again and again. When you are applying, the mind will understand ways and means how to be face to face with the primary object and go into it and observe its all the natural characteristics and gain the radical reflection. So when these things are happening, you can feel that how pure is the stream of consciousness. Even though it is completely challenged with all the other defilements and the distractions, still you can maintain the clarity when compared to the undisciplined mind, when compared with the unmindful mind. So that is how you go into the inward journey towards the mind. More and more you go there, you find the undefiled mind, the pure mind, the original mind, the primordial form of the mind. And if you are with the correct perspective, when and where you go there, you feel more confidence and you feel more trust upon yourself rather than the other people. You trust upon the present moment rather than the past and the future. You trust upon the present place rather than other so-called sacred places. So therefore, here is the time, now is the time, here is the place, now is the time, I am is the person. If it is not now, when? If it is not here, where? If it is not you, who? So that is how the mind become more rejuvenated. Whatever the challenge happens, you know how to cut through. So therefore, don't underestimate the simple observation of the in-breath and out-breath, or simple observation of the left step and the right step. You may, rational mind come and say, how can this kind of simple thing lead to such a big achievement? How can single step lead to such a journey like? So that is the unwise reflection. You have to have the wise reflection. Thin slicing of the time is one of the most important thing in the mindfulness. You reduce the time as thin as possible, reduce the object to the as simple unit as possible, and wrap it up and delimit it and make it a pure Dhamma rather than infiltrated with taints. So, as I mentioned, it's the only trial and error method. The Buddha is experienced himself, and then he teaches to the people, those who have uncultured mind, defiled mind. Even then, if you understand the technique, if you understand the advantages of the disadvantages and going to experiment with this trial and error method, you are the winner. So therefore, these all techniques and the information is to encourage your mind not to give up and to face with the object. More and more you go there, the manasikara will be sharper, efficient, and the mindfulness will set in. The concentration will come, and then you will see the danger of influxes more than ever. So I hope today information also will be helpful for you to continue with this endurance, and you will end up with more strong mindfulness and concentration. Thank you very much for listening. So we have taken a little more than 1 hour for the talk. So as customary, I will ask if you have any points to be clarified or anything something to state, please you may come out. Complete silence means that you have nothing understood or everything understood. Yes?
Feel the sensation of the breathing during meditation. So what can I do?
Please repeat the question.
I cannot feel the sensation of the breathing during meditation.
So my question is, are you sure you are with the breathing, or you are thinking and wandering, or you are painful, suffering from the pain, or you are disturbed by sounds? Or are you sure that you are with the breath?
I'm sure. So I'm trying to feel the hotness, the coolness of the breathing. But I can't sense the hot and the cold. So what I did is I just knowing breathing in and out. So I'm wondering, is it very important to have this hot and cold sensation?
No, that is the thing I wanted to get clarified is, you are sure that you are in the breath, but you can't find the touching point, you can't feel the touching sensation. Never mind. The breath has 3 facets. In and out air column, the touching point and the sensation. Whatever may be a starting point for the meditation. If I am to add some more, if you can feel the sense, the in and out breath, the touching point and the touching sensation, that's a good indicator. Your tendency is more toward insight meditation. But if you feel the breath, but without the touching point and the sensation, well, equally one can say your tendency may be to the samatha meditation or the concentration type. But even it is valid. So that means you have to make sure my mind is not wandered off with thinking. It is not irritated by sounds. It is not pain, unbearable. It is with the breath. You continue. Don't force to see the sensation. Don't force to see the touching point. Because it is distracting the concentration. So you make sure it is free of thoughts, free of pain, free of sounds, and with the breath. Try to observe very closely, not the touching point, not the sensation, whatever it happens. So when and where in-breath happens, you make sure I am in the in-breath. When and where out-breath happens, you are in the out-breath. To facilitate or you to encourage, Venerable Sariputta is giving an example. He says a big tree fallen down and two people go there and cut it with the cross saw for the firewood. So you will be asked to observe that wood cutting operation. And he says, you must see only the saw going and up and down. That's all. You don't know where the cutting is, where it's how we cut, how the sound comes, how the saw does come, nothing. You see the saw is going up and down. That's all. That means the samatha method. So that means you are sure you are not wandering off. But don't try, don't focus, don't worry, don't take special effort to see the sensation, heat, stiffness, cold, tension line. This is a kind of a distraction. So therefore be happy. You see one facet of the breathing, that is you see incoming and outgoing air. I am not telling that you see with eyes, you feel it. But the touching point and the sensation is no more. No problem. You are still advancing. This is a food for your mindfulness. So worrying is the distraction. Don't worry. Make sure that I am on the track now. I am advancing. Keep on practicing. In the walking meditation also, do not try to feel the sensation. You see you are in the left leg. Not distracted the right leg, or you are not seeing birds, you are not hearing sounds. You are in the right leg, left leg, right leg, left leg. So you just you continue with the left, right, Don't don't worry to see all the sensation and that kind of. It is not a disqualification of your meditation. You are not a disqualified person. You feel the in-breath, right leg, left leg. That's enough. It's a good question for many, otherwise we'll understand. Each and every has to understand all the three facets. It is not. It's a already decided thing according to individual character traits. So whatever coming, good enough. You can continue it.
One thing about question regarding to walking meditation. During walking meditation, lots of wandering thoughts. So what I did is I repeat the words lifting, pushing, stepping, so that I can bring back the concentration. Is that correct?
Correct and wrong. I have to correct it because the first question indicates me that your tendency is more towards the samatha technique or the concentration type. For the people doing concentration type, in the walking they must never think about beyond left and right. You must contemplate with the walking meditation only the left, right. When that is successful, only for the inside meditators, teachers give instructions to see lifting, dropping, lifting, dropping. When that becomes successful, lifting, moving, dropping. So therefore, if you are going to note lifting, moving, dropping, it is too much. You have to come back 2 gears backward, left, right. Your technique is correct, but I am refining you. Don't go for lifting, moving, dropping stages. You go for the left and right. So otherwise, if the thoughts are too prolific, and still you are noting left, right, but the thoughts are coming. If it is so, yet another advice is stop walking, stand still, noting, thinking. If you give the chances for both, the thought will get upper hand. Therefore, you don't give the chance. You stand still in the walking and start thinking. You note it, thinking. Don't hate it. Do not try to get rid of it. Just allocate the time for thinking. And see what kind of thinking, whether it is associating with the past or remorse, whether it is associating with the future, with the excitement, or whether it is associated with the hatred that is getting to get rid of, or otherwise associated with the desire. What kind of thinking? So you can understand if the thoughts are coming in an incessant manner. You can be little aware what is the character trait, what is the type, what is the basic idea of thoughts, past or future, desire or hatred, remorse or excitement. So that indicates who you are. Through your thoughts, through your the thinking, you can understand who am I. I am a person regret about the past. I am a person future planning and the excitement. And ultimately you can see the patterns of the thoughts. If it is possible only if the thoughts are coming repetitively. So if the thoughts are coming repetitively, you try to extract the basic theme of the thought. And some people find there is no theme as such. Thoughts are just inert. No much of an essence. These are the things you have to observe when the thoughts are coming continuously, when the thoughts are coming in an incessant manner. Okay, now we have almost 1 hour for walking meditation, and we will be meeting again for the lunch at 11:15 or 11:20. Yeah. So we will take time, if there is no question or immediate thing to discuss, we will take time for walking meditation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.